Hello, everyone out there in quarantine land. Good evening. It is a beautiful spring evening here in Bellingham, Washington. And every so often, I like to sing a song and tell a story at close to bedtime. So, for those of you who've been working really hard during the day, you can listen and hopefully relax to some pretty music and a story. My name is Dana Lyons, and tonight I will be singing my song called Magic. I wrote Magic during a very intense time in my life, and not as intense as this time, but still it was pretty intense. I'm going to tell a little bit about the story leading up to the song. And I'm going to dedicate this tonight to my friends who are working so hard at the grocery stores, at the farms, the people driving the delivery trucks, and the long haul truckers hauling food and everything else across the country. I have a lot of friends and family doing that, and I appreciate what you're doing. And not only are these folks working hard, as we know, they're they're risking their lives to get us our food. And I really liked something that Governor Cuomo said the other day. He said, thanking folks for risking their lives, for doing their job, that's a nice thing. But really, what folks need who are on the front lines, the people doing the medical, the first responders, and really the front line, you call it the second line or another front line, are the grocery store workers, the delivery truck drivers. They need, beyond thanks, they need hazard pay. They need hazard pay and all the safety equipment they need to stay safe so they can go home and feel safe when they go home to their families. So next time you hear a grocery store going on strike, the grocery workers union going on strike, or the nurses union going on strike, or the truckers, just remember what they're going through right now. And we need to have their backs because they've got ours right now. And especially people like me, who I'm in a high-risk group. So when possible, like our local co-op does curbside shopping, and I just really appreciate the people who I send in my little order over the internet, and they pick all the food out, and I get to pick it up in my car. So I just really appreciate that. And I know everyone else in the high-risk groups really appreciates that too. Well, it's getting on toward bedtime here in North and South America. I think it's morning around noon in Australia, middle of the night in Europe, in Africa. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the story behind Magic. I wrote Magic, I think it was 1991. Matter of fact, I'm sure it was 1991 because I wrote it during the first Iraq War under George H.W. Bush, the senior George Bush president. And when the war started, I played 2 weeks straight, every single day and night, often multiple anti-war rallies, and for 2 weeks. And it was fun and fascinating and heavy and exhausting. And I witnessed one of the great lines of my life at one of these protests. Actually, it was the largest audience I've ever played to at Seattle Central Community College. There were over 10,000 people at the square there, and I got to sing a couple songs, which was really fun. But the march was much larger. The march was 60,000 people through Seattle that night. And I got to the march, and I parked way far away, and I managed to find the march, and I happened to find right at the front of the line, of 60,000 people. So I just hopped in there. And we were walking down the street, and the head organizer is talking to the officer the Seattle police officer in charge there at the front of the line, and she says, "Excuse me, officer, we have so many people marching. We would like to change the route, and would it be possible to go over 2 blocks?" Or I forget exactly what she asked for. But we think it would be safer. And I love this line. And the cop looks at her and he goes, "Lady, you got 60,000 people walking behind you. You can go anywhere you want." So she did. And I learned something. I learned something. When you got 60,000 people behind you, you can go anywhere you want. So at the end of the 2 weeks, we didn't stop the war. But, we did what we could in our democracy, such as it is. And I was living on Orcas Island at the time, and I drove home, and I was exhausted, and I was depressed. And lots of people were getting killed, and lots of animals were getting killed, and habitat blowing up, and it was a mess, as all wars are. And I was just sad. I was really down. And I got on the ferry boat out to Orcas Island, and I think I laid down and just stared at the ceiling on those big ferry boat seats. And I got off the boat. I'm just kind of driving like a zombie, and it's night. I'm going back. I lived at that point with friends at a farm way out at the other side of the island, out toward Olga and Obstruction Pass, out towards Doe Bay, the hot springs, the hippie hot springs, for those of you who know Doe Bay. And so I'm driving, hadn't even gotten to East Sound yet, and it's almost all double yellow line. So there's a double yellow line. There's a long line of cars coming off the ferry. And I'm kind of driving, I don't know, there's a bit of space ahead of me. And I see this rabbit come out onto the road. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to hit this rabbit. So I slow down, and the rabbit kind of goes across the road into the other lane. And then this person in back of me, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, starts to pass me on the double yellow line. And the rabbit is right there in the other lane. And I had seen enough carnage that week, and I didn't want to see any more. So I just thought, I'm not going to let that car hit that rabbit. So I swung my car over in the other lane, and the car quickly pulled back. And the rabbit hopped out of the way. I'm like, great, saved a rabbit. And I could tell the person behind me wasn't too impressed by that, but I felt kind of good about it. I saved a rabbit. And then we went up through East Sound and go through town, and then you come down to the top of this bay, and then there's this straightaway that used to be a higher speed limit. Used to be 40, and I think they took it down to 25. And the reason they took it down to 25 is because 3 sea otters within a 2-week period were run over by cars in this bay. Sea otters. Oh, they're so beautiful. Actually, they're river otters. River otters live there. Beautiful, sleek. Oh, just the most gorgeous animal. And so they slowed it down. We don't need to be driving our cars over river otters. And they slowed it down to 25 or 30. I forget what it was. So we're coming down, and it's a double yellow line. And I'm still in a foul mood. And another rabbit hops out, does the same thing. And this car tries to pass me again. So I was driving a 73 Ford Gran Torino. That's a really big car. You don't want to run into that car. So I just kind of went, and that car backed off. And then further down there, another rabbit. And the car tries to pass me. This time, I just swung right out in front. That time, the car pulled way back. The car realized, I don't really want to pass that car up there. But that's the kind of frame of mind I was in. It was not necessarily the best frame of mind, to put it mildly. And I got home, and I was sad. And sometimes when I'm really emotional, I'll just sit down with a guitar just to find relief. And actually, I wrote a song that night, and I wrote the song Barefooted Strangers, which I'll sing some evening. That's a beautiful song and very poignant. And I went to sleep, and I didn't sleep very well. I was so bummed, and I woke up really depressed right before sunset. And we're in this big cabin, big funky cabin on this organic farm, and everyone else was asleep. And I got up. It must have been 6 a.m. I forget. It was the winter. It was before sunrise. It was just the sunrise was just coming up, and I went outside, and I was down. I was down about that war and how little influence we could have over it. And I went out and I sat down, and it was really cold, but it wasn't freezing. And the sun was just coming up, and I noticed there's all these dew droplets on everything. Little dew droplets on the end of branches of bushes. Thousands and thousands of these little dewdrops. And then here comes the sun, and it's a perfectly clear morning, and it's coming straight at me, and the sun comes up, and then all these thousands of dewdrops start sparkling tiny rainbows, tens of thousands of tiny rainbows around me, and the sun was coming up. It was the most beautiful thing, and it just touched my heart. And I thought, life continues. The beauty of the spectacular earth continues, even when there's a war, even when there's a pandemic. And so I love to sing this song. I thought I heard a sound. I thought I heard a sound. I thought I heard a sound of magic everywhere. I wonder what it was that I heard. Looking all around, looking all around, I could swear that I saw magic everywhere. Searching for that sound of hope that I heard. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear the sound of people singing all across the land, songs that have been banned. Forbidden bells are ringing, talking very low, telling what they know about a time when all the creatures share the earth. I thought I heard you speak. I thought I heard you speak. But you're just an animal or some old tree. But I could swear you said that you are my friend. I thought I felt some love. I thought I felt some love. I thought I felt some love from all the mountains around here. I thought I felt a melting in my heart. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear the sound of people singing all across the land, songs that have been banned. Forbidden bells are ringing, talking very low, telling what they know about a time when all the creatures share the earth. I thought I had a dream. I thought I had a dream. And in my dream I realized that this dream would come true. And then I knew that I had magic too. And if you listen very carefully, You can hear the sound of people singing all across the land, songs that have been banned. Forbidden bells are ringing, talking very low, telling what they know about a time when all the creatures share the earth. I thought I heard a sound. I thought I heard a sound. I thought I heard a sound of magic everywhere. And we're getting to the very light time of the year here, and still some light in the sky, but it's getting dark. All the apple blossoms are open, and the birds are nesting, and there's baby bunnies in the yard. It's just beautiful. Sweet dreams. Stay healthy. Have fun. Try your best to stay sane. I'm trying my best too. Good night.